Whoa! What a not needed intro. Okay, here we go, guys. This is a little game called Profit. It's basically a little tiny jump run. Well, most games I play on here are like small and tiny and pretty cool and quick. But whatever, this is one of them, and it's called Profit. It's a jump run with jumping and wall jumps, and that's about it. But, you know, a game doesn't need to be complex to be good. So, in this game, it doesn't really have a story, but my sort of own headcanon is you're just scaling a mountain to try and find a certain special item. What that is, we'll find out. This game is... how old is it? Published July 3rd. Yeah, it's not that old. I guess it's over a month old, but whatever. So, the thing about this game, like I said, it doesn't need to have any sort of special things in order to be good. But the thing is, if it's simple like this, then the stuff that it does should be good. You know, it shouldn't be. If it's simple, then the stuff it does should be, you know, fairly well done. Because, you know, if you have a shit ton of stuff in there, chances are some of that stuff is shit. But if you only have like 3 little mechanics or something, then probably those 3 mechanics are really good. So the only thing you have in this game is jumping and wall jumping and running around. So obviously, since it's that simple, then just the jumping, running around and wall jumping should be fairly good, right? Well, for the most part. Sadly, there is also a lot of weird stuff with this game. For example, as you saw right there, when you jump you gain speed, which isn't too bad. The problem is just that sometimes this fucks you up in trying to figure out how you want to actually approach a certain jump, or how you want to move when you accelerate or decelerate all the time. So that's a thing to watch out for. Also, the acceleration is a bit very sudden and awkward sometimes. It doesn't really matter when you're running over long distances, obviously, but there are some points where you need to move a little bit more precisely, and then it becomes really awkward to actually move correctly. By the way, all these little tiny mini explosions that you see on the back of that truck, for example, yeah, that kills you. I have avoided pretty much all of that most of the time, but right then I didn't, because I slipped off. And that was one of those places that I was just trying to say where the controls just get a little bit in your way. Because, for example, right then, you were... I pressed jump and forwards at almost the same time. Not quite, I pressed forwards a little bit earlier, which meant that when it registered forwards, I fell off the platform. And then since I was in midair, I couldn't jump anymore. Now, a lot of games actually compensate by that, by letting you jump the very first or second frame after you've run off a cliff. Which is really good. You'd think like allowing a player to jump off like the very first 1 or 2 frames he's in mid-air while running off a cliff would be almost game-breaking. It's actually really nice. You don't actually notice it very much, but well, you do actually notice it in that you don't actually run off cliffs and randomly die. Like if you do run off cliffs, you don't notice it because you still get the jump off. But that's not a thing in this game. If you run off a cliff, you'll just die because you won't get the jump. That's one thing about the controls. The other thing about the controls is you'll sometimes see about wall jumps, like right then, where it's not quite sure if it wants to jump upwards or to the right. Now, when you stick to a wall, you just stick to it. And you don't unstick unless you actually press away from the wall for like a few frames, and then press jump. Or actually, just pressing away from the wall also lets you drop. Or just pressing jump will also always, every single time, just disconnect you from the wall. But sometimes if you fat finger it just a little bit, he kind of lets go of the wall, or he thinks you want to jump like just upwards, but you actually want to jump like to the left or right. And that can lead to odd situations like you saw when I started explaining all of this. Whoops. Where he kind of jumps upwards but then immediately goes to like right or left, which is a bit odd. Like right then it also did that for just a little bit. The correct way to counter that is to just press right before you press jump. But for one, if you've played a lot of other jump and run games, you won't be used to this, because usually you can press them at almost the same time. It doesn't have to be quite the same time, and it'll still work, because there's a grace period of a few frames where it gives you like 1 or 2 frames to actually decide where you want to jump. So as soon as you press the jump button, it's not the same time where you actually leave the wall. But that's not a point, but that's not a thing in this game, so you will actually jump in place and then go to the direction, which is really awkward. So I want to try and, so every time I jump from a wall, I want to adjust the way I personally feel about the wall jump, and just press jump a little bit later. And also something you will see, which I think I can probably demonstrate if I find a good wall for it, is you can do, instead of actual wall jumps, you can do wall hops. Like you see all right there, where I didn't actually jump, I just hopped off it. It happens if you jump just a little bit too soon after landing on a wall. I can't demonstrate it right now. Oh, you saw it right there in the end, where you don't actually gain any height, you just drop off the wall. Right then it also did it again. It pretty much only happens when you're actually going down a wall. It's pretty odd. Also, this place right here, I did it first time, but actually landing on this shit is so fucking hard because of how momentum and acceleration works in this game. And also jumping off it without falling down is also pretty hard, actually. What am I doing? I have all the stars. So yeah. So sometimes you get wall hops instead of jumps, and sometimes you don't actually go into the direction you want to go. Stuff happens. All in all, it's not too bad. But if this game were longer, if the stages were any harder, it would be a pretty big deal that the controls sometimes just don't play along. The thing is, whenever I think I could say this to pretty much any game developer out there, if you wanna look at how to make good and fluid platformer controls, just try and copy Super Meat Boy. You'll probably say to yourself, I'm not copying another game's controls, like what the fuck? But seriously, Super Meat Boy's controls are so incredibly tight and specific that it's so completely obvious that you have like 100% control over the game, and anything that happens is like within your hands. If there's a mistake, it was your mistake. And there's nothing wrong with the controls. That's how Super Meat Boy feels. And if you copy that feel, that's like completely perfect. Just do that, because after that, if you copy those controls, then your controls they're not really an issue anymore, and you can just lean back and be like, I've got good controls. Time to do other stuff in game development, now that I've got the controls down. So yeah. And yeah, Super Meat Boy does have the grace period when jumping off cliffs, and it does have the grace period when telling when telling the game which direction to jump from a corner, from a wall, which all makes it really nice. Also, actually, very close to the end of the game, I've been talking about the controls so much that I could actually talk about how nice this game actually is, at least from style, feel, and atmosphere. And if the controls really don't, if you really don't mind the controls, then it's a completely fine and perfect game. Well, not perfect as in 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, but still, it's a rather enjoyable small little game. You can just play if you don't have anything else to do and you feel like, no, I just want to play a little game. Like I said, the controls can be a bit of an issue sometimes. Also, going along with the little story I made up for myself about climbing a mountainside to get the grand item you're looking for, we're getting closer to the top, which means that we now have a lot of snow, which you'll be noticing. I forgot how many stars I have. Do I have 2 or 3? I don't know. We'll find out. I should have 3 actually. Of course. Also, I haven't mentioned this, but I'm playing through this game with getting all the stars, because really the stars are absolutely no deal at all. Is there another star somewhere around here? We'll find out. Yeah, there was one here. I guess that right there is completely simple. And we're already on the final stage of the game. Cheeky little star right there. Sure, it's easy to find, but if you go on without this and thinking this is the way, then you will actually see that star. If you're at this point, you will see it at the top left of the screen, and you'll be like, oh, that's a star. Have I actually mentioned the name of this game yet? Oh yeah, it's called Prophet, by the way. I don't know who the prophet is, if it's me, because I'm sure as hell not doing any prophesizing, and I don't know about any prophecy, but, you know, we just beat the game. 4 stars, of course. Yay! And no, there's nothing to the left of that item. So, that was Prophet. All stars, as you can see. So, that was that. See you guys next time.